Just like that, we're live. Are you frozen?
Me?
No, just still. Okay, great. Hi. Okay,
No, I
well,
was thinking, what happens if you die on Facebook Live? Is it Facebook dead then, or is it changed the name, or is it still Facebook Live?
I always think, what if I get robbed or a murderer comes and it gets, yeah, these are my worries. Welcome, Steve. I'm glad we're here live for all the people to meet you or re-meet you or meet me, whatever.
Right.
Okay. Great. So today we're talking pleasure. So where pleasure meets perfect, two words that have a lot of charge for a lot of people. So I got excited and wrote some questions just the second right before we signed on.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, but I want to trust that cool stuff will come up, and my intention is to just be intentionally present. So what do you want the people to get from hearing you today or hearing us?
Well, I think listen with a beginner's mind and just take in whatever they can and enjoy themselves. I think
Hmm.
this is about pleasure, and what pleasure is to be pleased. So I want everybody to be pleased.
Hmm. So what does pleasure mean to you today?
But pleasure is to be the act of being pleased. It's not really an emotion, but it's an action. And um, it's like our we have DNA, and our DNA is evolves, and one of the way it evolves is due to pleasure. Things that are necessary, like procreation and eating. It's a good idea if they're pleasurable, if you want to do them. Same with pain. Sometimes pain is a useful tool for evolution, like to avoid the saber-toothed tiger, run away, to learn things from, or if you put your hand on the stove, not to leave it there.
Got it.
And pleasure is also very fleeting. It's not something that lasts, and that's also programmed into us, because if, let's say, we had this really great meal and it was so tasty, and okay, I don't need to eat anymore now because
Hmm.
I can just have that great meal. But you kind of like, you get hungry again and you want another great meal. So you want to repeat the pleasurable things. You don't want to put your hand on the stove too often.
Got it. Okay. So it's such a, yeah, it is such a like an ethereal topic, like pleasure. Like I get pleasure from getting dressed up. And it is fleeting, and then I always want more. So is it possible? Like a lot of people say they're bored or they find themselves bored. Is it possible to get bored with pleasure?
Well, I remember this. I used to watch this show called Northern Exposure. It was like in 1990 or so. And there's this Dr. Joel Fleischman in the show. And he was complaining about, he's up in Alaska. He didn't want to be there. He was complaining about being bored. And this shaman says, the reason you're bored is because you're boring.
Uh-huh.
So quit being boring.
I love it. Great. Great. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, who are you and why do you know so much about pleasure?
Let's see, who am I?
I know that's a big question.
It's like, I'm changing all the time. So I'm curious. So I want to learn about things. And I kind of got into it, like, not deliberately. It was kind of, I just needed a place to stay. And I found this place in Brooklyn, knew where I worked. And they were teaching classes about pleasure, about orgasm. And I said, But the reason I went there is I just needed a place to stay. But so I kind of didn't stay there very long because I was married, and I went back to my wife who had left and came back, blah, blah, blah. and then I went back because I wanted to learn more about pleasure and learn, And I think one of the reasons my marriage didn't last was I didn't know how to pleasure her. I wanted to learn how to pleasure a woman. So I did. I spent like past, I guess I was 24 then. So it's like 51, I'm 75 now. So it's 51 years I've been on the learning about pleasure still. Teaching, and I think teaching is a great way to learn. I think that's why we teach. That's why I write books, because I enjoy doing it. I do everything. You should do everything with as much pleasure as you can.
Hmm.
And
That's amazing. I mean, I don't know. I'm impressed. Like, I'm not good with times and numbers and dates, but 51 years focused on pleasure. What were you doing before? Like, what was your before
I
you found?
was, let's see, I was in medical school. I was into research, into DNA studies. It
Huh.
was
Science?
science. Yeah, I was a scientist.
Ah, okay. So it makes
Well,
sense.
I wasn't the best scientist because I was too didn't like washing all the bottles and stuff at the time. That's all you had to do. And I like the theory of the things, and I like learning about it, but I didn't really like doing it.
Got it.
But with pleasuring women, I really liked doing that. That was like a fun thing to do. So if I can make a career out of this, that'd be pretty cool.
That's incredible. So we're going to talk pleasure today, but does it have to be partnered pleasure? Because I know you have a book, Self Pleasure, and I think it's as important, and they go together, I think. But what do you think of?
Yeah, I think if you have a partner, that's great, and if you don't have a partner, that's great also. And even if you have a partner, I think self-pleasuring is very vital and important to your growth, and being able to be pleasured and also to learn how to pleasure somebody. And so you don't need a partner to have pleasure, obviously. And I was also reading a lot when I wrote this self-pleasure book. I was going to write about like these different exercises that we have, how to become better at self-pleasuring. And I started reading these books about happiness and pleasure and Buddhism. I really got into that. And the book kind of changed into more of a philosophic work. And it was like more fun for me to write because I had written other stuff already anyhow. So this is something that was new to me. So I really enjoyed doing that. And that was more pleasurable. And happiness and pleasure are kind of like cousins. Like pain and pleasure are also kind of like cousins, different side of the family.
Yeah.
But they're not opposites. Like both pain and pleasure are like called about sentience. It's about feeling something. The opposite of that would be like ennui, not feeling anything, kind of being depressed and not using your senses at all, unsentient. So, and happiness is kind of like, it seems happiness is more, the definition of happiness actually comes from the Icelandic word hap, which means luck. And it has more to do with our brain chemistry. So a lot of people have like really, like I think I have really good brain chemistry, so I'm happy most of the time. So I'm a pretty happy guy. And it's hard to really change your happiness levels as it is to change your pleasure. I think you can learn how to pleasure and be pleasured easier than learn how to be happier. The more pleasure you have in your life, I think the happier you will be. And if you're happier, easier it will be to want to learn about pleasure too.
Interesting. Do you think it's intrinsic? Like kids are born with a certain happiness level?
I think so. Yeah. I think you can change that to some extent. According to these people I read, it's kind of limited how you can change your happiness level. But I think according to like the Dalai Lama, he says like by being compassionate and doing goods and being kind, and all that will make you a happier person, a better person. So there's ways to do it. And in my self-pleasure book, I give a whole bunch of different ways you can do it. But this one guy wrote this book. He says, if somebody's trying to sell you like how to be happier, he's trying to sell you something. But then he wrote another book where he was kind of giving them ideas how to be happier. So I don't know if it's the same guy who wrote the books or it's the same book. It was kind of interesting.
Huh. Okay, cool. So it's interesting. When I was inviting people to come listen to this, it was like pleasure was either a word that was like, ooh, it's one of Shane's things. Like for my more people who are like, I'm scared. And then for other people, it was like, oh yeah, I do it all the time. So there was these extremes of like, I know what that is already, or like, I don't know, that's a little scary for
I
me.
think everybody has pleasure. Everybody gets happy. It's like, I think it's different levels of it. And
Right. Well, I use it in terms with your title of your first book, and maybe that scared them. So tell us about your very first book, Extended Massive Orgasm.
Okay. So it's about, again, the goal is to learn how to pleasure your partner and pleasure yourself. It's about pleasuring. And I think we call the book at first like The Art of Sensuality. It's about sensuality, the difference between sensuality and sexuality. Why we live in a pain-oriented society, a lot of philosophy, and then gets into some training techniques too. So it's called The Art of Sensuality. But we also did this course, which is a live demonstration of me rubbing on Vera's genitals, and we called it, I wanted to think of a name for that. So we came up with the name Demo. It's like a demonstration. We call it the Demo. So we had to come up with the acronym for Demo. So it's demonstration for an extended massive orgasm.
Oh.
And so when we, I guess the publishers saw that and they said, Art of Sensuality is too benign, Extended massive orgasm, and that's something out there, but it's also probably not scarier than The Art of Sensuality. So I think it probably turns some people off and probably turns some people on. So again, like those people you were talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's provocative, I think it's like can jolt people awake.
Yeah. So with we became known as the EMO people, during.
Yeah. Interesting. And so what's your relationship to working with people now?
Well, I never stopped. I mean, Vera and I used to do it together. We used to travel to places and do courses and do a lot of private sessions. Then we kind of just did private sessions, just the two of us. And then she got a dementia, and she kind of, her appetite for the topic wasn't as strong anymore. But I still was interested, and it still like our business. So I did more writing, and I see an occasional client for a private session. And first with Vera, and then when she got to the point where she couldn't do it anymore, I just saw women or couples. And now I have a friend, Vicky, who's available sometimes if I need a partner to show a man how to do it.
Got it. Great. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, it's the fastest way probably to learn. Take a lesson in it, and I think reading the book is great. Some people just want to read a book. I think that's why I wrote the book, so people don't have to do classes, but it's probably a quicker study if you come to an expert and learn anything that way. Is probably to have a coach. It's probably the best and quickest way. It's just more expensive and time consuming.
Got it. And what do people like? I guess so this is new. I don't really talk orgasm in this group, or any of my groups. I mean, I talk a lot of pleasure but I've been to some workshops. I've seen a live demo and I was super triggered. I wanted to leave. They wouldn't let me leave. It was really an awful experience. Um,
Well, I think with a course like that, you have to kind of like, you can't just jump into it too quickly. You have to kind of like lead them to it where they want to see it, not just jump in right away.
yeah. Well, they thought they led and I just wanted to leave. And so instead of leaving, they said, you could sit on the stage. So I got to watch the audience watching the demo, which was amazing because it was more fun for me to watch everybody like really like focus in. And right in front there was like a couple of religious people and it was amazing to me. But I think it was, yeah, I don't know what happened with me
You
that day.
stayed. Glad you stayed.
They didn't let me leave. Well, which was smart because you can't let someone leave in a state like that. Like I was yeah. But I think that is it's like the thing that's in hiding. It's like we don't want to see anybody naked or I mean this group isn't vanilla group, but still it's like it's
Right.
scary to think and then it's like, "Oh, wait, this is actually beautiful. This is human life. Like why is it so our I guess I don't know.
It's our conditioning of society is like it's pain
Yes.
oriented. So you can go talk about your pain all day long, but until you start talking about your orgasm, people will freak out or they don't want to hear it or they think you're weird, But you can tell them about, oh, I broke my arm or I have cancer, and then you can go on and on and on, and they'll listen to you.
So is there a difference of people from like 20 years ago and now? Like is there any are they
Not
like
much. I don't see much difference. Yeah, in the past 50 years.
yeah,
I
I guess
think it was a little wilder back, I guess, in the late 70s and early 80s before AIDS. It was a little wilder. People,
wow.
and I guess with the 60s revolution, and the sexual revolution. And then it got a little more tame, I think. But there's still plenty of people, and there's more information out there now than there
Mm,
was then. There was nothing out there earlier. I mean, our books are probably pretty much still the best books on orgasm.
amazing. And I'll put up a link because you have it's not just a couple of books, you have 14 books. Is it 14? 15?
Who's
15.
counting?
Yes. No, well, I wanted to remember. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of information and
Yeah, they're not all orgasm books. I'd say like most of them are. There's a couple of poetry books, and there's a book about like Alzheimer's, but it's also looking at Alzheimer's through the point of love and pleasure rather than
mm,
losing about it and being unhappy. It's about happiness. I think.
amazing. Yeah. Let's see. We got a little some people have this is some of our people who are watching. There's a bunch right watching right now, just so you know.
Okay.
And so, if anybody has any specific questions or broad questions, whatever, you can put them in the comments and I will ask. And actually, a lot of people in these groups are artists or they have some connection to the arts. So I'm glad you brought up your poetry book. So, what's your relationship to the arts?
Oh, well, I mean, I consider myself more of a scientist than an artist, but I think I like when I went to school, I didn't want to do any writing. I always did mathematics, in science classes.
Hmm.
And then I got into this pleasuring thing. And then Vera said, you should write a book. But my handwriting was so bad because I went to medical school and I learned how to write. And that's the first thing they teach you is how to write so people can't read it. So I said, I can't read my own handwriting. I can't write. But then computers came along and she said, you have no more excuses.
Nice.
So I started writing on the computer and that's how it started like that. And then I think that poetry, I kind of like inspired every once in a while, especially if a woman turns me on. And I write love, mostly my poems about love. And and then the poetry is actually really good. It turns out when put to music. because we had this home hospice. These music therapists would come, and for some reason I showed a couple of my poems to this first lady, and she said, "Oh, I can put music to that." And she just sat down. She didn't read the thing. I mean, she read the first one, but the other one she just played music, and each was a different thing. And she said, "I said you're amazing." She said, "Well, it's your words that make it so easy to put music to." So I'm and then we had a second music therapist, and she didn't want to do it because she wasn't quite as developed, but she turned out to be really great. I think her songs are, maybe my poems are better, but the songs are really amazing to me. Anyhow, I really like them. And I think I'm looking for somebody who wants to actually collaborate and do music, who can do music and wants some lyrics. So more of a lyricist than a musician myself.
Got it.
And I can't even draw a stick figure very well. So
Got it. Cool. Okay, Hazel has a question. She says, how do you see the connection between love and pleasure? Thank you, Hazel.
I think if you love somebody, and just the act of loving is a pleasurable act. I mean, pleasure doesn't have to be just physical pleasure. It could be mental pleasure, and I think loving is one of the most pleasurable things you can do. So I think it has a strong connection. I mean, you can love somebody. I think pretty much has to be pleasure. You can't pleasure without love. But I don't think you can have love without pleasure.
I love words. It's so fun.
Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah. I had something I wanted to say.
Also about happiness. The German word for happiness is glücklich, which also means luck. And then the Chinese have 3 symbols for happiness. And one of the symbols is luck. So happiness there's really a lot of luck to do with happiness.
There's a lot of luck with happiness.
Yeah, you have to be lucky to be happy.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a whole lot to say about luck. I mean, well, if you're awake and you're looking for opportunities and you're available, like chances are you'll be luckier than if you're stressed out and looking down and sort of.
For sure. Yes. Yeah.
I know what I was going to say.
So I think you can get happier. It's just not as easier for some people as others.
Yeah.
And I think like people who write books about happiness are probably people who are happier.
Yeah. Yeah. My theory is self-expression just like releases a lot of stuff. So there's more space for joy.
Yeah, and loving and being kind and compassionate to somebody will make you happier. And also doing something meaningful. I think being pleasured will make you happy, but also doing something meaningful will make you happy. So if you're an artist and you create something that's meaningful, so that can make you happy too.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the brain, and I love brain. Like, I just think it's so vast. There's so much untouched, like, genius. And so when you say pleasure and then we talk about orgasm, it sounds very physical only, but that's not how you're sharing right now. So what do you, like, if a couple was listening and they're like doing the same thing for 20 years, like, what are some tips, or just like, I don't know, we go to bed. I think I do all the right things. Like, I have a client like this. We're not working together anymore, but
Right.
yeah, like, what are some extra other?
Well, and one of the things is to learn how to self-pleasure, so you know what feels good to you, and be curious and to touch yourself, in all different kinds of ways, and turn yourself on, and to use conceptual thought and fantasy if you like, or just if you read the book about self-pleasure. It gives you all kinds of exercises what you can do. Also, and then with your partner, once you know what you like, then you can train them. And the way you train them is you use positive training. So when Vera first got married to her husband, her grandmother gave her a book, How to Train a Poodle. And she didn't have a poodle. So anyhow, it's basically, it's basically what she meant was you don't do it with negative stuff. You don't hit them and say bad dog.
Yeah.
You say good dog. You went into something good. So if somebody's touching you, like you find some good and positive thing with it, what they're doing, and let them know, communicate that to them, and then ask them to do something that you want. So so instead of touching you, but they're touching you like not in your clitoris, they're touching you in your navel or something. So I feel you have really nice hands. I really like the way you touch. What do you touch? But 3 inches lower. Now, and then they do that, and you say, oh, that's really good, but they're still not right where you want them. So you can keep it's like a 1, 2, 3. First, a good thing, you call it give them a win, then a request, and then an approval, and then you go back to step 1 again, until you get it exactly the way you want. And if you train somebody from like we call it, this is another good thing. Instead of just relying on the chemistry of the situation. So if you're together for 20 years, the chemistry is probably not as strong as it was when you first got together. You take roles. So like one person is the pleasurer and one person is the receiver of the pleasure for that time period. So say 15 minutes or whatever. You can switch positions too. You don't just always be the pleasurer. And so the person who's being pleasured can like say, wow, that feels, like that's why they train. They say it feels really good when you do it a little faster or a little slower, like that. And the person who's doing it, who's a pleasurer, can ask questions. Would you like it faster? Keep asking and do it incrementally, so until you're doing it just like the way they like it. So both people can be communicating, at the same time. So again, that's in our first book, a lot of those communication exercises for partners.
Yeah, I think it's important to, always communicate. But I think in that moment, there's so much. What I hear from women that I work with is like they sort of lose their voice. And yes, I think you lose your voice like from whatever, but also it's like if someone's so embodied, so it's a training. And I want to say like what I don't know. I'm sort of saying what I think is like that there's going to be awkwardness. Like I'm kind of obsessed
Yeah,
with
well, yeah. That's why practice you get better. You get better at it.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what's
And
your
you can practice. You don't have to practice with sex right away. You can practice with other things too. You can train anybody, by positive feedback. So if you like, if you have a waiter or something, and instead of just saying, "Can you bring me some ice water or something?" you say, "Wow, it's really nice. What's your name? It's really nice being served by you. You look like you have attention on me. Can you bring me some ice water?" And bring the ice water and say, "Oh, wow, thank you."
Yeah.
Like that. And then they brought your friend ice water. They didn't want ice. They wanted regular water. So, "Oh, thank you for bringing me the ice water.
Wow.
Do you think you can give me some water without ice?" So you can train them so they'll want to do it. If you just tell them, "I don't want this water," go give me, they're not going to want to do it.
Got it.
You can practice, other places, and you can practice places away from there's a course that we took or also taught where you train somebody not on your genitals right away. So you can train them on your thigh, you can train them on your belly, different parts of your body, with clothes or without clothes.
Got it. So it's also good to notice when you're out and about and you're looking for someone like who's lovely, like who's being kind and who's being compassionate. And then, it'll be more in their wheelhouse to be kind and lovely, I think.
Yeah, I haven't been looking around too much because I was married for so many years, and we're kind of like hiding behind each other, I think, in a lot of ways. But now I'm kind of like more, what's the word? Less hidden, more, I'm out there more,
Mm-hmm.
you say.
What's that like?
It's a little scary, I guess, but I'm pretty brave, so I can do it.
Okay, we have a question. So I find that when I try to put my needs first, when I'm trying to pleasure someone else, it totally ruins the experience.
Let's say that again. If you're
Yeah,
trying,
I
first,
find
trying
that,
is not a good word.
right. I
It's
agree.
usually right. So
Okay. And when I put my needs first, wait, I find that when I'm trying to put my needs first, when I'm trying to pleasure someone else,
yeah.
it totally ruins the experience.
Well, it's kind of conflicting. You put your needs first, and then you're trying to pleasure somebody else. What you can do is when you touch somebody, the way to touch somebody, we call the taking touch. So you
Hmm.
touch somebody, so it's pleasurable to you to touch. It's pleasurable to your hands. You're touching with your hands feel good. Because your hands, they really have more receptors than any part of our body. You know, even more than the genitals. The genitals have special receptors for pleasure, but the hands have more mechanical receptors that can feel. So make it feel good to your hands
Hmm.
touching. So when you don't feel like you're owed anything.
Oh, yeah.
So so when I pleasure a woman, she doesn't have to do anything to me because I'm taking my pleasure from touching her. It's pleasurable to me. So, and the better you're able to pleasure somebody, the easier it will be to pleasure you to be pleasured too.
Yeah, I think that it's the like the low grade fever of transactional behavior really ruins things. And it, I don't know who this person is. It just says Facebook user because I can't see it on
Right.
here. So I can be more frank. Is like it sounds like you're in your head, like when you're in your head, which I'm so familiar with, it sucks. Because when you're trying to do anything, it's not fully there and it's already like, yeah.
It's kind of like, I mean, orgasm is kind of like a meditation, really. It's like
Mhm.
putting your attention on the place you're touching with, or the place you're being touched on, and putting attention there. And when you start going into your head, you stop feeling.
That's so good.
Now, if you can add on like some conceptual thoughts, some sexy thoughts, perhaps to add on to the experience. But like if you start going into negative thoughts, you definitely not going to feel good. If you're getting angry, angry is like the enemy of turn on.
Oh,
So
that's a great
if,
line.
if you find yourself being angry, then stop doing what you're doing, and
Yeah, and also it's okay to take a break. I
yeah,
think,
breaks a very
yeah,
much harder part of the game. Yeah,
yeah, I agree.
yeah. I mean, in order to go higher, you have to deliberately take breaks before
Mm,
the person. So you're touching somebody. So that's why you call it an extended orgasm. In order to extend the orgasm, you have to stop touching them before they want to stop.
mm,
If you take, let's say, and the better and closer you are to that point, the better you are at it, the more attention you have on it.
mm.
But it's always better to stop too early than too late. Because once you stop too late, then you lost them for at least a while. And both of you probably going to be spacing out in your head.
Right, right. Great. Um, yeah. Okay. Thank you. It's Gregory. Thank you for asking that question. Great. And if anybody else has a question or a comment, it's always fun when you play along. Um, let's see, what else? Yeah. So what's pleasurable to you? Like when you wake up in the morning or like where do you find pleasure these days in, you
I
know?
don't know. I mean, I wake up a few times at night because I have to pee often,
Mhm.
and just the act of peeing is pleasurable,
It
actually.
is,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have a really good heated toilet seat and it's so
Right.
comfortable.
Yeah. I like cold, so that doesn't. But I
Mm,
think Vera would like that. I
yeah.
should have gotten that for her.
Keep secret. Everybody get it. It's the best. It's really the best thing even in the summer.
But I mean, I don't know. I guess it's my happy chemical. So I wake up, I'm pretty happy usually.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes my dreams aren't so good. I'm just happy I woke up from that shitty dream. Yeah.
Mm, mhm.
Usually my dreams are pretty good, and I'm happy I had a happy dream. So you can win from any place you're at. And I was reading this book, and she says, like, play some happy music when you wake up. So I've been playing this song. Don't worry, be happy.
Yeah.
So it says, go like this. Yeah, when you wake up. Hey.
Amazing. I love it. Um, Great. Let's see. Yeah, do you want to give people homework? Like, what's their homework? What do you want the world to do for their own pleasure?
Um, geez. I think do some self-pleasuring. Like just look in the mirror and look at yourself for things you like about yourself, with clothes or without clothes, and not look at yourself anything for wrong, like you're too fat or you got pimples or anything. Just look for something you like about yourself. You like your shoulders, you like your arms, you like your lips. Just do that. And that's an pretty easy thing to do. It's just
Yeah.
doing the mirror exercise is a fun thing to do. It's also a way to turn your body on more too.
Mm.
So we really haven't touched perfection. I think perfection is really about agreeing with what's going on, or accepting whatever comes at you. And the more enthusiastic you can be about whatever comes comes your way, because you're not really. I mean, you can put yourself in situations, but sometimes situations come that you weren't, desiring or wanting, or even or thought about. And at first, you may not accept them, and the quicker you can go from non-acceptance to acceptance, I think, is a good tool. And that's something about that's a way to be perfect.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that word because it makes a lot of people like there's some perfection, like I could never do that. I could never, whatever I could never is, because of their dislike for certain body parts or smells or ways of being. I mean, I can be a perfectionist in not a helpful way, but yeah, I would love to hear more about like what you were just saying. Maybe you can repeat it or expand on it, but just like perfection.
Yeah, funny. Yeah, I think perfection is like, is just seeing the world as how amazing the world is. I mean, we're like, you probably heard this before. We're like all stardust. We're made of stardust. And so many people weren't born. Can you imagine all those those DNAs that weren't born, that could have been born from your parents, but you were the one who was born. You were the one who lived, and that's like amazing. And that's really, I don't know. I think it's a reason to be happy, just to know that you are one of the lucky ones.
Hmm.
Can you imagine all those people who never got to experience anything, and and you're human even. That's even like, wow, that's pretty cool. You develop all these ways to have more pleasure. So, I mean, animals can have intercourse, and also in my self-pleasure book, I found all these other animals do a lot of masturbation too. We're not the only ones, and it's not just chimps. It's like almost every kind of animal does masturbates. It seems like after reading it.
Huh.
And my favorite was there's this bottlenose dolphin. They wrap an eel around their penis.
Wow.
That's pretty. Yeah.
That's the importance of community.
Yeah. What a world, yeah. There's
Wow.
one happy dolphin.
Oh my goodness. Dolphins are really happy. They're always happy.
It seems like that, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we have a comment. So what do you do when you just don't feel like even self-pleasuring? I don't force myself to try to self-pleasure, but I don't like to feel that deadness.
When you don't feel like so. I think what a good idea would be, you're not going to feel like it all the time, is to like make a date, or set a, set a time period deliberately say, okay, I'm not going to feel like it right now. So I'm going to say, like, when if you're a night person or a morning, choose a time that you like. It could be when you get up in the morning. I'm just going to do the mirror exercise. I'm just going to touch my body and, to see what kind of touches I like. I'm just going to do that for 5 minutes.
Mm.
And then after 5 minutes, if you don't want to do any more, fine. You might find that you want to do more then. But if you set some deliberate times for it, then the default fun comes in, and the default pleasure will come in too. But I don't expect to. There's no such thing as a turn on fairies. And turn on fairy is not going to come around and all of a sudden you're going to feel like turned on. You have to take it, take charge of that. And the way to do that is set up. You can do that with couples or you by yourself.
Yeah, I like that. And sometimes the pleasure comes afterwards.
Right. Or you may just start. You may not feel like touching yourself, but you get some lubricant and you work your way to your genitals. When you touch your genitals, all of a sudden it feels really good. Hey, I feel like it.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky how the mind is like, I mean, I have a lot of resistance, like for doing things in the morning, like even just getting up.
Yeah, well, you can do it now.
Yeah, anytime, but really like with curiosity, I think it's interesting if you're like, okay, if I'm a science project, what's going to happen, Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so good question. I think is
Yes, I think it's great.
most people are not going to feel like it.
Hmm.
They'll find an excuse not to, or they'd rather read their phone. I mean, seeing people walking around with their phones, like spend all that time with their phone. Spend 5 minutes with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's another exercise that we talk about in our books is just setting up the space. So
Yeah, that's big.
music, something that tastes good, something that feels good to touch, something for conceptual thought. So it could be a romance novel if you're a woman, or it could be even a porno thing for a guy or a woman too. Whatever turns you on. And then something that smells good. So just you can set up a space like that, and then you can do the mirror exercise. Or you just set up the space, and then you can have it for later on. You don't want to use it right away.
Yeah. And now knowing who you are, like, I see you get dressed up. Like it can be done, it can start in so many ways, like if whatever you like to put on, like I love getting dressed up. It actually turns me on. I get so excited. And if if I'm laying in bed and not showered, it's like I'm comfortable, but it's farther away from turn on. And dress up could be whatever. It just be soft clothes.
Right. Everybody's different, and that's if you know what turns you on, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Use whatever you have.
Use whatever you have. Yeah.
Yeah. Habits are really. There's a book called Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing to do is, if you have some good habits, is to add on a habit to your old habit. So if you I have a habit, let's say, of doing this exercise in the morning, where I do like ankle circles. So I added another thing where I do also some eye circles at the same time doing my ankle circles. So I'm adding on that habit too. So and you can add on something else to that, or you can,
Momentum. That's great. Right.
Yeah.
And if it could be just like brushing your teeth or something that you already do, hopefully. Yeah.
Well, I brush my teeth. I mean, also gargle with salt water afterwards. Something.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Excellent. Well, Steve, this went very fast. Is there anything else you want to share or that I missed or that you want to add?
Oh, yeah. So maybe somebody can contact me if they have questions, or if they want to do. We also have a really nice video it's pretty old, but it's on like a link now, so people can just download it.
Great. I'll put it up.
It charged money for it. I was reading about ulterior motives the other day, and everybody has ulterior motives. So they'll offer something for free, because they really want to sell you something.
Uh-huh.
So here's my ulterior motive. I want to sell you my video
Got it.
or my books or something, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
Uh,
fair.
yeah,
You're great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And ulterior motives aren't necessarily bad. They kind of have a bad connotation.
Hmm.
People think, oh, he got ulterior motives. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably just a code word for desires.
Um, well, or planning, or you know, so everybody's a hustler. Everybody's selling something.
Yeah, I mean, but if it's for someone's own good, that's how I feel about manipulation. Like when you're building something, you have to put things, you have to manipulate them into space. It doesn't have to be bad, but yeah, gets a bad.
No, it's the way people are, and it's a good thing. I think it's the more creative you are,
Hmm.
you can become better at you know selling your wares.
All your wares. I mean, yeah, and then being happier and having more relaxation and then passing that on. And,
Yeah,
I think there's a nice frame to it.
yeah, yeah, and do something nice, do something kind, do something extra kind that you wouldn't ordinarily do. That's not the homework you can do.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and anonymous is better than like doing it where they know who's coming from.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can tell Shane about it, but don't tell the person you're doing it to.
Yeah. You can post it here afterwards. And it's really simple, but it's so beautiful. Like I've been whatever, just different cans of food. Like we have this neighborhood refrigerator and you can just bring stuff there and it just feels so good to like get some extra stuff or feed the neighborhood cats. I don't know.
Right.
Amazing. Do mitzvahs, everybody. All right. Well, excellent. Well, I will another link to your books and stuff and anything else you want me to. And Steve will answer questions. He's in this group and I'm not sure what we'll do next, but maybe this is it. So if you know anybody that wants to watch this video, you can tag them on it. And I'll put it on YouTube if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. Thanks for being here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
My pleasure.
Yeah.